Imagine, if you will, that you live in the valley right next to a beautiful high mountain. And there's a beautiful, pristine river that flows down the mountain, providing awesome, clear, tasty, fresh, cold water to everybody that lives in the valley. And one day, as everybody's waiting to, they're going out there to the river, and with their buckets of water, because they want to bring back all the nice fresh water for their home for the day. And all of a sudden they find out there's less, the river is less than normal. And then the next day there's like less again, and the next day there's less again, and before they know it, a week or two goes by, and all of a sudden the river's dried up. What happened? But this is exactly what can happen when it comes to our own Parnasah, our own financial success at times. Chas v'shalom, our financial success killed. So I'm Hoshea Allen, and you are listening to the Shoemaker Workshop. We're going to go through in today's class 10 killers of Parnasah, 10 killers of your financial success. Now, most people have videos about, 10 things you want to do to make sure you're going to be financially successful. Well, we learned last week that we don't want to have a big appetite and a taiva and a lust for money. So we don't want to have a class on, things that you want to do to make sure you get a lot of money. That's not the goal. The goal here is to try to because if Hashem wants us to have Parnasah, which He does, and if He wants us to be financially blessed, which He does, then we want to make sure that whatever Hashem wants to give us, He's able to give us without us putting the blocks in the way and preventing the flow and the shefer and the bracha and the hatzlacha from coming down to us. We'll call it 10 killers of Parnasah. We're going to go through 7 points that come from the sefer called Likutei Eitzot. And there's a chapter in there called Mammon u Parnasah, which translates as money and livelihood. And we're going to go through, it's a pretty long chapter. We're just going to pick out 7 points from that chapter. After that, we're going to look at 2 sections of Likutei Moharan, which is tremendously awesome teachings of Rebbe Nachman himself. And then we're going to look at a Chazal from Masechet Bava Metzia, which is in the Gemara, and we're going to finish up with that. So let's go through these. I think some of them can go through rather quickly, and others we're going to spend a little bit more time on. Number 1, what does it say? This is actually in the very first section of this chapter called Money and Parnasah. And what does Rebbe Nachman teach? He says, Al idei dvarim betelim v'lashon hara ba'aniyut. Let's translate that. Through words that are like meaningless, basically frivolous, idiotic, dumb, stupid, wasteful words, and speaking lashon hara, which can include lots of things like even gossip or malicious talk, bad things about people. It could even be true things about people, but they should not be spoken out. There's lots of learning about that as a separate topic. Most people have learned a lot about lashon hara over the past number of years. But through these things, basically using our mouth to speak things about we shouldn't be speaking, using our mouth to say things we shouldn't be saying, harmful words, or just nonsense, comes poverty. So that's a bit of a shocker. We might not have realized that. Now, some of these points, we're not going to go, well, actually most of the points, we're not going to go into the details of how Rebbe Nachman learned all this out. You can go there and you can look up the sources in Likutei Moharan and other places and find out, all the technical details of how this is learned out from the Torah. Here we're just going to give almost like bullet points, things we should be very careful about. In other words, if Hashem wants to, let's say, assign to you, $1,000 every week, and that's what was decreed for you at Rosh Hashanah for the next year. Wow, $1,000 every week. That's not bad. I can live off of that pretty comfortably, you might say. But you see, we could block it. We could mess it up. See, there's this mountain, and there's this river coming down. And it's a beautiful river with awesome water in it. But the water can get siphoned off, and all of a sudden it doesn't reach us. So even though there can be a decree that X amount of, let's say, money, mammon, has been destined for us on Rosh Hashanah for the coming year, it doesn't mean that necessarily it's going to come to us. We could mess it up. Chas v'shalom. One way we could mess it up that could destroy our financial success for the year is by not being careful with our words, speaking lashon hara. So that's the first thing we need to be careful about. Number two, the second thing we need to be careful about also is in the exact same section of that chapter on money and livelihood. It's also in Sif number 1. What does he continue to say there? Gam alidei gaiva. And also through arrogance, haughtiness, pompousness, pride. I think I'm so important. Comes poverty. Wait a second. Hoshea, this doesn't really make sense, because I can look out into the world and I can see very arrogant people that are very wealthy. So what's going on here? And I can also see people that speak lashon hara all the time, and they also seem very wealthy. So what's the answer? If you think about last week's class, you might realize the answer right away. Remember last week we talked about the fact that there's two kinds of keli? There's one kind of keli which is a holy keli, and there's another kind of keli which is, we'll call it an unholy keli. And we're not talking about the unholy keli. We're talking here about the holy keli. If you want to receive your Parnasah from Hashem in Kedusha and in Tahara, and you want it to come directly from Hashem himself, and you're not interested in the love of money, and you're not trying to get everything you can, and you're working on the right kind of a kli. You're trying to make yourself into a beautiful kli to receive whatever Hashem wants to give you. Now, in that mode, we called that person number 1 last week, if you remember. For person number 1, these are the points that are going to harm him. These things may not harm person number 2. If you don't care about being holy, and you don't care about preparing yourself as a proper kli in Hashem's eyes, and you're all into like, oh, I want to make, I don't care, and you're all into the sitra achra, then these things may not really relate to that. This is what relates to people who want to live the life kedusha, in holiness. For such a person, his lashon hara, and for such a person, his gaiva, his arrogance, chas v'shalom, will impede his financial success. So even though you may see examples out there in the world where it doesn't look like that's the case, you need to think about that. Maybe, obviously you don't want to judge the person, but it could be that that person is uninterested, doesn't realize what it means to turn himself into a holy keli. So keep that in mind. That's number 2. Arrogance. Why arrogance? Why pride? Because arrogance and pride, whatever you want to call it, ga'ava or gaiva, what's the essence of it? It's a form of avodah zarah. It's a form of idolatry. That's what it is. So, and some of these other ones also kick into the notion of idolatry. But we either want to receive our Parnasah from Hashem, and if we don't, we got a Parnasah from another deity, right? An El Acher, another god, avodah zarah, the sitra achra, darkness, all that stuff that we talked about last time relating to person number 2. In that case, that's why gaiva, pride, is problematic. It's problematic because it's a form of avodah zarah. And avodah zarah is not worshiping Hashem. So right away, we now left person number 1 and we went over here to person number 2. Okay, let's now go to point number 3. Point number 3 is found in Sif 2. It's the exact same chapter. You can look it up in Sif 2. What does Rebbe Nachman teach there? Adadei pagam habrit ein lo parnasah. Through blemishing of the covenant, literally what the words say, through blemishing of the covenant, a person doesn't have Parnasah. He has no livelihood. Now, what is blemishing of the covenant? Anybody knows anything about the teachings of Chassidut, specifically Breslov Chassidut, Rebbe Nachman's teachings, knows what pagam habrit is. It means not being careful to protect your holy brit, meaning our sexual drive. If we do not protect our sexual drive, and we veer off into the forbidden, whether it's, again, forbidden looks, forbidden touchings, forbidden thoughts, those 3 things, if we're involved in those things that are asur, then what's going to happen? That's called a blemishing of our covenant. And the teaching is you're not going to have Parnasah. or you may fall, well, I got some Parnasah, Hoshea. Maybe you do, but it's not real Parnasah. You may have money, but you may not have Parnasah, real livelihood. We're talking here about spiritual ideas. Somebody, Hashem may assign the Parnasah at a relatively low level compared to somebody else. But if those people have prepared the right kli for themselves, then they have plenty of Parnasah, right? They have all the Parnasah they need. So what Rebbe Nachman is teaching us here is somebody who is pogim habrid, who's not careful about his drive, then he really has no Parnasah. Even though he may have money, he doesn't really have livelihood. Because he's living in a dark world. Even his money is dark. So that's the third killer. The third killer is wandering eyes, forbidden touches, and even worse things than that. All right, this is heavy stuff, right? Number 4, let's go down now to paragraph 25 in the same chapter of Mammon Parnasah. What does Rebbe Nachman say in Seif 25, Chaf Hey? He says the following: Ayre Taavat achila ba dalut ubizyanot ubushot, through the lust for eating. I said, come on, Hoshea, can't I do anything? I can't have anything. No, you can't. You have to be holy. Look, none of these. Let me finish the translation. So through the lust for food, basically, I crave food. I'm just always giving in to this lust for food. I can't seem to stop. Comes what? Poverty, bizyonot, which is like insults, disgraces, people always disgracing you and insulting you and humiliating you, and bushot, embarrassments. So the one we want to focus on is poverty. So he says very clearly, the lust for eating leads to poverty. You see, what is a holy man supposed to do? I think it's based on a pasuk in Mishlei, that a tzaddik eats to satisfy his soul. What does that mean? It means, because a soul doesn't need to eat. Does the soul enjoy food? The body needs to eat. The body is the body. The body needs to stay alive. So what does the pasuk mean when it says that a tzaddik eats to satisfy his soul? It means that a tzaddik, a righteous person, eats enough to keep the soul in the body. That's what it means. To satisfy the needs of the soul. What are the needs of the soul? The needs of the soul is to be in the body in order to fix, to metakein all those things that soul messed up in previous gilgulim. See? So that's what it means, that a tzaddik eats to satisfy his soul. And so that's why the greatest tzaddikim, they eat a very little. Now that's very high levels. I'm not saying that, we're going to, any of us could, maybe we'll never achieve all this by the time we live to 120. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter whether we're able to achieve these in the utmost by the time we live out our days. The point is that, well, number one, we need to know what might be impeding the fact that Hashem wants to give us Parnasah. And then we could be blocking that. We don't want to block that, obviously. Whatever Hashem wants to give us, we want to receive. We don't want to get in the way. And we learned last week, we don't want to chase after it either. We want to do Sibakala, right? And just receive what Hashem wants us to receive. We don't want to get in the way of that. So even if we make a little bit of an effort in every one of these, or even in only one of these 10 things, it's a great thing. Don't get upset with yourself. Let's say that you struggle with a lust for eating. I mean, I don't know who's ever listening to this teaching. But let's say that in your life that, wow, you just, you have an eating problem. So anything that you can do, anytime, any day, where you restrain yourself, even if you can only do it for 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden you give in to your appetite, to your lust, that's 5 minutes that you controlled your lust. So don't measure it on a big grand scale, right? Don't just, I still have a lust, therefore, I'm lost. No, don't look at it don't look at it that way. We've talked about this many times before. Don't beat yourself up because you haven't reached the absolute top of the mountain. any little thing we can do in any of these areas, even if they're short-lived, is still something good. And every little bit helps stop any blocking that we might be putting up in the way, okay? Same thing with Lashon Hara. For example, let's say that you just have this great lust for speaking bad things about people. Because, you know, to many, it's true. Lashon Hara, it, quote, tastes good, right? It feels good sometimes to say something nasty about somebody. Sad, but that's true sometimes. So even if you can resist that pull for a minute, that's still something. That's still something, okay? All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Point number 5 is found in Sif 26, which is Chaf Vav, and Rabbi Nachman teaches here, Alidei shepogamim betefillin ba dalut ubusha. Through messed up tefillin, to the fact that our tefillin that we wear, whether it's Shoyad or Shorosh, there may be something messed up in our tefillin. Maybe there's a blemish inside and we didn't realize it. Maybe we haven't checked it recently. It says, through a messed up tefillin comes, again, poverty and embarrassment. We may be prone to being embarrassed by other people in public. And then all of a sudden, every time I turn around, somebody's humiliating me and embarrassing me. What's going on? Maybe you need to check your tefillin. Again, I'm not going through all the details of how Rabbi Nachman understands and learns these things out. He also talks about, I didn't add this point, but I wanted to keep it to 10. But he also adds about mezuzot as well. You could have a messed up mezuzah on your door, and you need to check them. Because he also says that if you have a messed up mezuzah, that could also cause a big problem in your Parnasah. So here, he specifically states here, tefillin. So that's a simple thing you can do to check. Now before we go any further, if you're still with us in this video and you like what you're hearing, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't yet, and give us a like and add a comment, because when you do that, that helps the algorithm push the video out and allows other people to benefit from these teachings. Okay, number 6. Number 6 is actually in the same paragraph as number 5, which is back in Likutei Eitzot 26. V'chein alidei shepogim be'emet ba'aniyut ubusha. Truth. If we're somebody that always messes up truth, and we're not careful about truth, and we are a person that lives in lies, and we spread lies about others, we spread lies about ourselves, to ourselves. We can't admit the truth to ourselves, even in our own private life. Everything is just lies, everything is lies, everything is falsehood. And so the very essence of emet, of truth, is all messed up, is all blemished. That'll also bring you to poverty. All right, point number 7 is a little bit of a longer one, and I really wanted to spend a little bit more time talking about it. Let's see what Rabbi Nachman says. This may, if you've never heard this may astound you. It's in Lamed Gimel, which is 33. He says, Ka'as mazik haparnasa va'ashirut ma'od ma'od. Anger damages your livelihood and wealth a whole lot. Now again, think for a second. We're dealing with person number 1 from last week. We're dealing with somebody who wants to receive from Hashem. We're not talking about somebody who wants to go grab. We're not talking about somebody who's modeled after Esau. We're talking about somebody who's modeled after Yaakov. Somebody who receives from Hashem, not who goes and grabs stuff from this world. For such a person who wants to be like Yaakov, who wants to receive from Hashem, who wants to prepare himself into a holy kli to receive what Hashem wants him to have, no less and no more. For that person, anger can mess everything up. Anger is one of the most important destructive forces for your Parnasah. You go back to that metaphor we talked about at the beginning, where you're living down in the valley next to this beautiful stream coming down the mountain. You know what anger is like? Anger is like this person that's halfway up the mountain, and he digs a big channel and he diverts all the water away from reaching you at the bottom of the valley. See what happened? Anger is just siphoning off and sucking away all the Parnasah that Hashem wants you to have. So realizing that, he's going to explain a little bit more what's the connection here. But realizing that, just before we go any further, a lot of guys, we have anger problems, right? It's a real issue with a lot of us. So we ought to be thinking, whoa, maybe that's why I'm so poor. I get angry all the time. I go off, boom, 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 and everything triggers me, and I can't control myself. Well, if that's the case, you need to spend an hour and eat bodedut and work on it every single day, right? That's what Rebbe Nachman says. He says you need to go to eat bodedut and spend an hour on every single midah until that midah, that bad midah, is broken. So if we have anger problems as men, and even as women, but we're dealing here mostly with the attributes of the man, because he's the one, according to the Torah, who is assigned to be the provider, because he's like Zir Anpin. He's like, well, I don't want to get too Kabbalistic, but he's the one who we're supposed to receive from Hashem, and then he's the one that's supposed to give over and provide for Malchut, which is like his wife. So most of this pertains to men. Therefore, we got to be very careful to control anger. Let's go on with what he says, continuing on. V'teda, and know, hayetzer, when the yetzer hara, when the evil inclination, mesit otecha lichos, when he's trying to tempt you and seduce you and trap you into getting angry. Teda, you should know this. You should know right away what's happening. Shebezot hasha mashpim lecha milmala ezu sach mamon. At that very moment, wow. At that very moment, you should realize that up in Shemayim, they have just assigned you this bounty of money. They just made a decree. Like Hoshea, he has now been given, 3,000 shekels. And it's now assigned to him. Here it's coming down. It's coming down. And the Yetzer Hara sees it. It's exactly what happens. And he says, oh, I don't want him to have that. I'm going to prepare for him something in his surroundings that'll trigger him to get angry. That's what he does. Let's go on. V'hayetzer rotze lekalkel zot hashpa'ah. The evil inclination, he wants to mess it up. He wants to mess up this flow that's coming down to you. It was assigned to you. It was assigned to me personally. You have your own river that's coming down from Shemayim, not just a Stam river like we said in the metaphor that we started with. It's like, this is your own private river. And it's coming down from Hashem. And anger is like going to pull it away. So the Yetzer Hara, he's standing off to the side, seeing the stuff coming. He said, look, I see it coming down. Quick, let me trigger the guy to get angry before it gets to him. And then that anger is going to siphon it off. Let's go on and see how he says it. He sees that he wants to wreck this thing. Through anger, that he, the Satan, the Yetzer Hara, the Samech Mem, whatever you want to call him, the El Acher, the other God, that he's prepared for this person some form of anger. Shehu mazik et hashpa shel ha'ashirut. That's going to damage the livelihood, going to damage the riches. This is very, very powerful teaching. Then he says something even more profound, perhaps. Va'afilu im kavar yesh lo mamon. Even somebody who's already got lots of money, yachol abed oto. He can lose it. Al lidei hakas, through anger. It's like, wow. So anger is a very, very powerful, destructive killer of your Parnasah. And not just your Parnasah that's coming down the mountain, but even your own treasure of Parnasah after you received it. In other words, your bank account. Again, we're dealing with people who want to live in Kedusha. If you want to align your life with Kedusha, you have to be careful with these things. Very, very careful with these things. All right, we've now covered 7 points, okay? 7 points. 7 killers of your financial success. And they were all in this chapter, the same chapter, Mammon Parnasah, that's in Likutei Eitzot. In English, you can get it in English, it's called just advice. It's not the exact same as the Hebrew version. There's some stuff missing from it, and some of these may not line up exactly the numbers to the English version, but you'll find it. And there's a lot more there, by the way, than just what we're going through tonight. I just thought it would be useful to talk about 10 points, because 10 is something that's easy to remember. If you go more than 10, and it's just too much. All right. Now we're going to switch to Likutei Moharan. Because the last one, anger, that's if you walk away with one thing, maybe that's the one you want to walk away with. I got to work on my anger. I need to work on my anger. Now in Likutei Moharan, Rebbe Nachman talks about other points too. And so let's see what this other point is. This other point is now going to be found in Likutei Moharan, chapter 23, or Torah number 23, in the very beginning portions of that Torah. He says, I think we read this last week. There are people who have fallen into the lust for money. And they don't believe that Hashem, the Holy One, blessed be He, can provide you Parnasah with you just doing something simple, something light, something easy. And they're chasing after, they're running after their own desire to get their Parnasah with a lot of effort, a lot of hard work. So what is the point here? His point is, what do they have? They have a lust for money. So the more that we lust after money, the more that we just are so greedy and we really want it, we just taste money. Oh, it just tastes so good, all this money. What we're doing is we're driving away the very Parnasah that Hashem wants to give us. We're impeding, we're putting up a block to true Parnasah. We may end up with a lot of money, maybe. It's possible. There are a lot of wealthy people in the world, rich people, that have a great lust for money. So it doesn't seem to bother them. Again, we're not talking about person number 2. We're talking about person number 1. And person number 1, he's to receive his Parnasah from Hashem. So he needs to be exceedingly careful not to fall into the lust for money. The moment he falls into the lust for money, he's defeated the whole thing. That was the key of last week. Remember the whole key last week was what? Just be a receiver. Just be willing to receive what Hashem wants to give us. So that's point number 8. To work on our lust for the money. The highest level in this point is not just not lust, but actually to hate it. It says that actually in the Torah. Right? Sone batza. Somebody who just hate the money, just hate it. I just hate it. Okay, so we talked a little bit about that last week too, but that's an exceedingly high level. So most of us are not at the level where we actually hate it. That's the best though. If you can actually arrive at the level of hating it, that's great. But if you can't arrive at that level where you actually hate it, at least try to work on not lusting after it. At least that. Okay, and that'll certainly help. Again, there's many levels, many stages to all this stuff. Point number 9. And then we're going to switch to Likutei Moharan, chapter 56, which is Torah Nun Vav. This is more of a spiritual idea. So far, everything we've kind of dealt with so far are very practical. We can understand them in a very practical way. This is more, we might say, esoteric, a little bit more Kabbalistic, but it's still relevant. What does he say? Ulefi hagdalat adat kein Parnasah b'nakel. The more that we have an increase in our dat, or as we say in Ashkenaziville, in our das, which is a Kabbalistic quasi-sphera. What it basically is it's a union of Chokhmah and Bina. It's one of our brains. It's like a spiritual brain from which all the good midas, meaning Chesed and Gevurah, Tiferet, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod that we talked about before, they all come flowing down from the union of Chokhmah and Bina, which is Dat. And we said that Dat, on a very practical level, can be understood to mean awareness in the present moment, what's happening to us. and then it's all hashgacha pratis from Hashem, that when something happens to us and it seems to kind of catch us off edge, somebody with tremendous da'at will not be shaken. He won't panic. He won't freak out. He'll realize that whatever it is just happened must be from Hashem and it's good. So that's why da'at and emunah are also connected. But I don't want to get into a big discussion about da'at. But think of it now as just knowledge or awareness of Hashem orchestrating your life in the present tense. And it's an aspect of one of our brains, one of our mochim. If you like the word mind, you can use the word mind instead of brain. It's okay. It's the same basic concept that I'm trying to drive at. But he says somebody who has a lot of da'at, he can earn his Parnasah, or we might say he'd be able to receive his Parnasah easily. That's what the first sentence means. Benakeo, easily. Ki Parnasah benakeo tola bedat. Parnasah, meaning livelihood. Again, Parnasah is something that comes from Hashem. It's your, quote, Mammon, your money that comes from Hashem. That's like Parnasah. That Parnasah, that livelihood, that will come easily to somebody who has da'at. Kamosha Katuv, like this, it says in Sefer B'midbar, Shatu ha'am v'lakatu. They wandered around, the people did, and they gathered, they picked. What's it talking about? It's talking about the man, right? The manna. That the people would wander around and they would pick up the man every morning. And so the Zohar says, this is a very strange word. Shatu. So the Zohar says, bishtuta, stupid, stupidity. You fools. You're wasting your time. What are you doing? Meandering around, wandering all over the place, gathering up your daily man. Just be content, sit in your tent, learn Torah, and Hashem will provide for you. We don't have to go wandering all over the place. That's what the Zohar takes on this. And then Rebbe Nachman brings that down. Ki kol mi shechaser dat, biyoter, the more somebody lacks dat, hu yaga v'torer acha parnasah biyoter, he's got to go struggle and work hard after his parnasah all the more. So it's like a seesaw. The more dat you have, the less I have to work hard. The less dat you have, the more I have to work hard. And we talked last week about the seesaw. That the seesaw is between, again, Bitachon, remember? And Hishtadlut. There's another one here. This seesaw is the seesaw between dat and working hard. That's what he says. If you want to not have to work hard, I mean, who wants? Do you like working hard? Maybe there are some people that are workaholics. What do they really like though? They really like to work, or they like the money that they get after they work? I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, but it seems to me that what they really like is the stuff they get after they work hard. But they're so addicted to the process that they never actually enjoy what they receive because they're always just trying to get more. It's a really bad spin that these people are caught up in this downward spin. It's not a good situation. But the point is that if you want to receive your Parnasah from Hashem without having to go through a whole lot of labor, a lot of effort, a lot of struggle, a lot of hard work, yigia, hard work, and tircha, struggle, effort, so much, then work on your da'at. That's it. More da'at, less I have to work hard. So where does da'at come from? The da'at comes from limud Torah, comes from learning Torah, and from koach, in your tefillah. Those are the two primary ones that we've talked about a number of times before. If you learn Torah lishma, okay, that means you're not doing it in order to try to be a big shot. You're not learning Torah in order to try to be called a rabbi. You're not learning Torah to make yourself look more important than your charusa. Rather, you're learning Torah because Hashem says you need to learn Torah, because you want to fix your midot. Then you'll get up in the middle of the night and you'll learn Torah when nobody's around. That's what Rebbe Nachman says. And then you're learning it lishma. Then you have a chance to develop da'at. Another one is if you concentrate on your tefillah. We talked about this again many times. Even last week we talked about it, or 2 weeks ago. Your Shemona Esrei. Concentrate on your Shemona Esrei. Pay attention to your words in the Shemona Esrei. Think about what you're praying about. Don't allow yourself, and it happens to all of us. My wife sometimes says, to our grandson. She says, when something happens and she senses that he might be a little embarrassed by what he did, she says, it happens to the best of us. And then it kind of helps alleviate his stress. Like, oh, happens to the best of us. Happens to you too? Like, and she says, yeah, it happens to me too. And then he doesn't feel so bad. So this happens to all of us. We all allow our minds to wander from our tefillah. We're not the biggest tzaddikim here. We're regular average folk. But when you catch yourself, then right away in the middle of that tefillah, you should like mentally say to Hashem, well, I'm sorry. Don't speak it out, I'm sorry, because you're in the middle of Shemon Esrei, right? But at least think the thought, like, oops, I allowed myself to stray from concentrating. And you might realize, oh wow, 10 brachas went by. Right? Or some people was like, oh, all 18, 19 went by. What happened? I'm already backing up. Like 3 steps backwards. And what happened? I don't remember anything. Okay, so next time, try to work on it. But anyway, those two things primarily are what will help give you dat. Concentrating on your tefillah and learning Torah Lishma. All right, that's point number 9. Point number 10, which is the last point, is possibly, again, one of the most important. It's hard to know what is the most important. I don't know what the most important, but this is like a really big one. And we're going to just simply call this Shalom Bayit. If you don't have Shalom Bayit, if you don't have peace in your home, peace with your wife, then your Parnasah will be blocked, and any Parnasah that you even have stored away can be taken away from you. Let's see what it says there in Bab Metzia on Daf 59a. V'amar Rebbe Chelbo. So Rebbe Chelbo said the following: Le'olam yehei adam zahir bichvod ishto. A person needs to always be very careful to give honor to his wife. All the time. Because what is a wife? She's the aspect of malchut. Remember, the wife is the aspect of malchut, which is the 10th sphera, and the husband is the aspect of zeranpin, which is the 6th sphera above that, right? Chesed all the way down to Yesod, which we talked about before. And so, what is malchut? What is the essence of the sphere of malchut? Sovereignty, kingship. What is it? Remember, it's a vessel that's empty. Remember, that's the essence of malchut. It's an empty vessel. It has to be filled, and we even see this, b'chush. We see this physically with our senses in the physical world. That a woman needs to be filled. I don't want to be graphic, but it's obvious what I'm talking about. So, on a spiritual level, it's also the case that a woman, i.e. a wife, specifically we're talking about a wife, needs to be filled with kavod from her husband. That's what she needs. Because she fundamentally is an empty vessel. That's the essence of malchut. And it can't stay empty. Not supposed to stay empty. It's the job of Ze'er Anpin, of the husband, to provide through the channel of Yesod, right, which is a channel of communication. And we'll call it sexual purity. And all that thing that we've talked about before, everything always ties back to the same ideas. So it's important for the husband always to give kavod to his wife. Let's go on. Listen to this. Ein bracha mitzuya b'bayit. B'toch habayit shel adam ele b'shvil ishto. Whoa. That a blessing is not found within a man's home except because of his wife. If your wives, guys, are not happy and they're miserable because you're not treating them properly and you're getting angry all the time in the house and you're arguing and you're griping and moaning and groaning and you're criticizing so you can see she's not happy, then don't be surprised that all of a sudden you're going to have to work 15 hours a day. Don't be surprised that all of a sudden your bills are going to start piling up. Don't be surprised that all of a sudden you're going to find yourself going into debt. This is what he's saying. Chas v'shalom. As my wife says over there in the kitchen. You have to work on it. You have to work on it. You got to give her kavod all the time. Why? Because that's
Happy
what
wife
she
is a
needs.
happy life.
Pardon me?
Happy wife is a happy life.
A happy wife is a happy life. I would like to say during Hibodedut, thank you Hashem for my wife, who is my life. Thank you for my wife, who is my life. And so if you keep your wife happy, then you have a happy life. And it's not that she's like, oh, something wrong with her. How come she needs all this, kavod all the time? Come on, man, just be like a man. But she's not. She represents the sphere of Malchut. And by definition, it's an empty sphere. By definition. That's the way Hashem set it up. He set it up that way. You got a problem? Go take it up with Hashem. But it's not going to change anything. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to change the whole structure of the entire universe for you, in that sense. He set it up that way. Okay, so let's continue on. Shneimar. On how does Rabbi Chelbo and the Gemara know this? Where did he learn it from? He learned it from Avram Avinu. The pasuk in Bereshit. This is, I think, when Avraham went down to Mitzrayim, and Paro took his wife Sarah. A big catastrophe took place, and then Hashem punished Paro and all of Paro's house, and he realized, oops, and he gave back Sarah. And what does the pasuk say? Ul Avraham heitiv ba'avura, and Hashem did good to Avraham for or because of her. Because of her. Because of who? Because of Sarah. You see, so Avraham received blessings not because of him. We as men don't receive blessings because of us. Oh, look how important I am. Look how smart I am. Look how great I am in the office. Oh, I'm so... No. That's a deluded thinking. Hashem will pour out his Parnasah to you, and you'll be able to receive it while it's spilling or being diverted all over the place. Simply because you give kavod to your wife. And then Hashem looks at the wife and he says, your wife is happy. Shkoyach. Now Hashem will provide blessings for you. That's what Rebbe Chelbo learned. V'hainu, as it says, Amar Lahu Rava, livnei Mechoza. Just like Rava said to the people who lived in the town of Mechoza, this is a famous saying, it is Aramaic, Okiru linshaychu, give honor to your wives. This is what Rava told the people in the city of Mechoza. He told them, give honor to your wives. Why? Ki heichi detit atru, because that's how you become wealthy. That's how you become wealthy. As you see, so wait a second. You see how this can be twisted? This teaching is often twisted to mean the following. This is wrong. Oh, I want to be wealthy, so I'm going to give honor to my wife. Now see, you just turn the whole thing upside down. What did you do? You lusted after being wealthy. You see? So we just finished teaching us that you're not allowed to lust after it. So if you want to use this is not what Rava is saying. Rava is not saying to somebody who lusts after money, okay, you want to fulfill your lust? Honor your wife. And then Hashem will see that and then he'll fulfill your lust. That's not what Rava is saying. Rava is just simply saying a fact of life. He's giving you a truth of the way the whole universe works. That's what he's telling you. He's telling you that. Because he's not saying you want to get rich, you want to get wealthy. Let's look at it. He says, O kiru linshayhu, honor your wives, ki heichi detit atru, because that's how wealth comes to you. That's how you become wealthy. He's not saying because in order to fulfill your lust for money. He said that's just the way it works. And really what we now understand what Rav is saying is that's how all the blocks are removed. That's how all the blocks are removed. That's how you stop all this Parnasah that Hashem wants to give to you, that He assigned to you on Rosh Hashanah. That's how you prevent it from being siphoned off. That's how you make sure it comes all the way down. That's what he means by, because that's how you become wealthy. Because you're receiving the Parnasah that Hashem wanted, not to fulfill your lust or your greed. All right, so we've covered 10 basic points. In review, let's look at them again. Remember, these are 10 critical things that will kill your financial success. Number 1, bad speech, wrong speech, evil speech, using our mouth for the wrong purpose. Number 2, arrogance, pride. Number 3, not being careful with our sexual drive. Number 4, the lust for eating, the lust for food. Number 5, blemished tefillin. Number 6, blemished truth. You never focused on truth. You're always living in lies. Number 7, anger. Number 8, the lust for money itself will drive it away. Number 9, lack of dat, lack of awareness, lack of a spiritual mindset on everything that happens in your life. And finally, number 10, not giving kavod to your wife. These 10 keys, if you can work on them, and even a little bit, you can work on these a little bit every single day, you may find all of a sudden you're not having to work as much, the bills are not mounting up, the car's not breaking every 2 weeks, things just seem to be going well all of a sudden. Somebody can make a lot of money and all of a sudden find out that just the bills just went up. So what was the good of that? It didn't get him anywhere. He worked a whole lot more, but all of a sudden he just has a whole lot more bills. So he doesn't end up any more ahead. What was the point of it all? You see? This is this. So going back now in summary, in conclusion to our metaphor, we live at the bottom of a mountain. The mountain is Hashem's kingdom. It's Hashem's sovereignty. And Hashem wants to flow this beautiful water, beautiful river, which is the Shefer and Bracha and Hatzlacha. It's your Parnasah. And it's a special river just for you. And a special one just for me. Everybody has their own special river that Hashem has prepared for them. And it's coming down. And these are the things that can stop it, can obstruct it. It's like putting a dam in the way or diverting it off to somewhere else into a barren wasteland somewhere. None of us want that. We don't want to chase after it unnecessarily. All we want to do is prepare ourselves as a holy kli just to receive what Hashem wants us to have. And if we have that attitude, we don't get in the way and block it and obstruct it, then we'll be happy. Because we'll be content with whatever it is that Hashem gives us. And we'll be truly, truly wealthy. So until next time, this is Hoshea Allen. You've been listening to the Shoemaker Workshop. Have yourself a great week.